When analysing the various environments in depth, we can make use of analysis tools such as Pestle, Porter's 6 forces, SWOT, resource-based approach, and value chain analysis. The macro environment. The business has no control over any events taking place in the external environment, and thus needs to constantly be aware of what is happening and formulate strategies, adapt to any situation that presents itself in order to either eliminate any threats or capitalize on opportunities. Pestle is a popular analysis tool to evaluate the macro environment. These are the external factors. P stands for political and physical, E, economic, S, socioeconomic, T, technical, L, legal, and E, ethical. Let's look a little bit deeper into each of these factors or environments. P stands for political. One needs to be aware of the current local political position, provincially and nationally, as well as any international relationships. An entrepreneur needs to assess the level of interference of government in either of those spheres, the stability of the country and the ruling party, and finally, it also needs to look at the political ties with other countries that could affect the import of your product. In this case, you're importing a product from a faraway island in the Pacific Ocean. Economic. You as an entrepreneur need to assess the following. If economic growth and development is improving or deteriorating in the country, and how would it affect your business? Now remember guys, you're selling a luxury item on the beach. You would then have to look at the trend of inflation. Is inflation going up or down? You'll always hear your granny talking about, back in my day, bread was 3 Rand. Now we're paying nearly 18 Rand a loaf. Then you can have a look at interest rates. What is the current trend of the interest rates? The level of debt of people in the country as well as the government. Unemployment rates are a fairly good indicator as to what's going on in the economy. Then finally we have exchange rates, the strength of the country's currency compared to other countries. For example, we need to have a look at the trend of the exchange rate over the past year during COVID. Did our Rand strengthen or did our Rand weaken? Research these topics and have a look as to how best to answer your questions, focusing on these few factors. We then move on to ethical factors. Ethical factors are based on principles and values. So when we consider the impacts of ethics on our business, we need to have a look at what our business practices are and which ones are acceptable and which ones are not. For example, selling a fruit that's maybe past its sell-by date, even though it's fine, is it ethical? Social and socio-economic factors refers to the impacts that social trends have on the economy. Recently, and still currently, we are involved in a global pandemic, COVID-19. Things like AIDS and TB have also had massive effects on businesses, consumers, and lifestyles. Technology refers to the equipment that the business uses. For example, your points of sale where your records are kept for your sales of the day, keeping track of your stock, and your staff attendance are all very important. And finally, your legal factors. This refers to any laws that affect the business, such as labor legislation, Consumer Protection Act, BEE, laws that protect the environment, and legal taxation. For example, employees need to be aware of the amount of hours that staff work. There is a maximum amount of hours per week an employee is allowed to work by law in South Africa. The law also prescribes overtime rates for Sunday work as well as public holidays. We then move on to the market environment. The market environment is another environment that we have no control over. Analysis tools such as Porter's 6 forces helps entrepreneurs identify specific opportunities and threats. Let's watch a YouTube video that quickly explains Porter's 6 forces.
Here we can rely on Michael Porter's 5 forces framework. It was developed in 1997 as a simple and powerful tool for understanding the competitiveness of any business environment. Do you know how Porter's came about this model? Well, he recognized that most businesses keep a close watch on their rivals, but he also encouraged them to look beyond the actions of their competitors. So he made up the 5 forces that makes up the environment. These are the rivalry among competitors, threat of new entrants, threat of substitutes, power of buyers, and power of suppliers. Let's examine each of them in more detail, shall we? The first factor has to do with the number and strength of competitors. Rivalry increases in fragmented industries with lots of small businesses that offer equivalent products where each player has a small piece of the market share. That way, even a small gain can have a significant impact on a company's profit. How do you think you will fight this battle? You simply need to try and attract customers with aggressive price cuts and high-impact marketing campaigns. Since the offered products are similar, buyers in return are likely to opt for the better deal. Retailer, consumers, and restaurants are typical representative of these markets. The threat of new entrants is another factor that shapes the competitive industry environment. This force measures how difficult it is for new entrants to enter the playing field. The more time and money it costs, the easier it is for established companies to charge higher prices and negotiate better terms. Branches once more. Here the threat to new entrants is very high. Anyone with a small amount of capital and some culinary skills can open one, right? Yet, it doesn't mean that we can all earn 3 Michelin stars and be successful. This goes to say that easy marketing entry does not guarantee business prosperity. Alright, the third factor in the Porter's framework focuses on substitutes. Do you know what these are? Substitutes are products that customers can switch to as an alternative. For instance, low-cost mobile phones from China are substitutes for Apple and Samsung devices. If substitutes for a company products are easily available, then the threat is high. As a result, a demand for a firm's products will likely decrease through the presence with a comparable replacement. On the other hand, more differentiated goods face less price competition. Consider the companies that produce packed and protected products. Because of their exclusive nature, they can easily raise their prices without reducing demand in their product. We call this high pricing power. The next factor in the 5 forces model addresses how easily customers can bargain for lower prices. Check this out. If there are only a few buyers in the cost of switching from one Solus product to another, then it's low. The bargaining power of those buyers is certainly high. When airlines order planes from Airbus and Boeing, they can easily choose between 2 producers. In addition, there is a limited number of airlines that typically order aircraft in bulk. This makes air travel firms tough negotiators when it comes to selling prices. By contrast, a firm that has many small customers and switching costs are generally high. We will have no trouble charging the higher prices. As we know, Coca-Cola dominates the market for beverages with more than 180 million consumers around the world. The company holds close to 90% of the market share, and its customers don't really have a viable alternative to turn to. Now we should examine the last of the Porter's factors. It touches on how easily suppliers can drive up the cost influence. The diamonds industry worldwide has historically been controlled by De Beers, an international corporation that specializes in diamond exploration, mining and trading. If you are, let's say in the jewelry business, it will be very hard to find an alternative diamond supplier. As a rule, a limited number of input providers in scarce products give more power to suppliers. On the contrary, when there are many vendors in a low switching cost, producers can keep their costs low, allowing them to boost profits. This is, however, valid for most fast food chains like McDonald's and KFC. They can simply pick the suppliers they wish to work with and replace them whenever they need it, because the suppliers they usually look for are highly standardized. Excellent, ladies and gentlemen, we just examined the Porter's 5 forces. Let's apply this now in your Benango business.
The microenvironment. This is the environment that we have full control over, as it is your business. Each business function will present strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Hence, SWOT analysis being the most popular when looking at the microenvironment. As an entrepreneur, you will fill many of these functions. In big corporates, they have individuals or even teams of people performing these functions. However, as a startup, you will need to perform and control the outcomes of each function. Any of these 8 functions can be analyzed using the popular SWOT technique. For example, strengths, production function. It uses efficient methods to make Benango products with limited wastage, therefore increasing profits and minimizing costs. Weakness, the finance function. There is very limited cash flow. The business thus continuously is playing catch up with suppliers. Business is good, however, because of the credit card payments, it takes 3 days to clear into our accounts. It affects our cash flow. Opportunities, purchasing function. Cutting out the monopoly supplier at Cape Town International Airport and buying directly from the farmer on the island. And finally, threats, the administrative function. Competitors gain competitive advantage over our Benango traders' business without us noticing. Perhaps they have gone into negotiations with the supplier of Benangos to perhaps drop the price of Benangos from 2 Rand to 1.50 Rand.